Hey, how you guys doing? This is Joey.
And this is Joshua.
And today we're going to talk about, honestly, like an overcast of ideas, but I think specifically we're going to talk about the shooting that happened in Kenosha, the police-related shooting that happened in Kenosha that was, obviously, it's so hard to put into words, but, really it's hard to explain the nuance of that kind of a complicated situation, but it must be done.
And to be warned, this is definitely a nuanced conversation. At the beginning, you may not be aware, but we are very pro Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely.
But we want to have a nuanced, honest conversation, so just stick with what we have to say.
I mean, and the thing is, it's like Black Lives Matter is not a movement. It's a fact.
Right.
It's a fact. And so keep that in mind. We're not fence straddlers here, but at the same time, we do believe in, mortality is a very nuanced conversation. We're talking about a person that is dead now,
Right.
and so he deserves, no matter what he did in his life, what he may have been guilty of in the past, death. He's dead now.
So stay tuned and make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube.
And this is Drunken Discourse.
What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor early in the morning?
So if I'm not mistaken, and please forgive me if I am, the name of the victim who was shot by the police was Jacob Blake, right?
Yes, it was.
And it honestly, and I apologize, it's so hard to keep up with who was victimized at what time by the police, because there are just so many stories that we have to witness and bear with and make sure we bring to light.
I mean, and that's kind of the deal, that's the surreal kind of horror that we're dealing with. I mean, because, when we were kids, we heard about, and I think we were talking about this earlier, it was, like the big, like, oh my God moment that, white people were having was like the Rodney King beating.
Right.
And obviously then the terrible verdict.
Right.
It was the glimpse that America was having into police brutality.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, what we're now seeing because of technology, because of people having cameras on their phones, and because of all the things that we can see now.
Yeah.
This is nothing new.
Right.
I think, to me, that's what makes it so horrifying.
Yeah.
Is that black people, a lot of the times black men, are cornered, accosted, and just exterminated in the street, literally because of the color of their skin or because of some perceived slight against the understood, like, kind of Ronald Reagan white man authority.
Yeah.
Of, like, you don't step out of line, even with your tone. And I mean, we're talking about a country that just in the 60s, an African American adult male was forced to give the sidewalk to a 12-year-old boy and say yes sir to him because he was white.
Yeah.
And that is, it may not be as blatant as it used to be, but I think that's actually the problem.
Yeah.
That's actually the problem.
Yeah.
Because now we have this very
closeted racism.
Yes, it's this very it's thin, but it's a very thin veneer of polish that racism now has.
Yeah. Of course, when you get into a certain context, it's just okay to be openly racist.
I mean, that's kind of my problem with it, because just being this dumb Mick from Alabama, I've always looked at it like loyalty, love, action. Putting action behind your words. I growing up the way I did, it was something that I wasn't exposed to, the other end of it. Because when you grow up in the South, you're raised with racism most of the time. I would dare say 90% of the time, most of the people you talk to in the South are going to be able to say, yeah, I was raised by a parent that used the N-word.
Yeah.
Or I was raised by a parent that would go on rants about how these blacks need to stop blah 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 or whatever. And see, the thing is, when you're raised with that, there's this very caustic, kind of brutal effect that it has on the way you see people.
Yeah.
Because now that's going to bleed over into everything. It's not just like racism to me is like that is the most fertile ground I can think of for having antisocial behavior.
Yeah.
Because not only do you now resent black people, you resent you will now resent homeless people. You will resent people that are addicted to narcotics. You will resent people that live, even just people that live below a certain tax bracket.
Yeah.
The elitism, which in my opinion is hatred.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's very impossible, I think, to be an actual elitist and not have a lot of hate in your heart.
Oh, yeah.
And, that's what I'm saying is that racism isn't just, what this is doing to a specific group. It's what it's doing to our society as a whole. It's not just black and white. It's now this is tearing us apart no matter where we are or who we are. Because now it's just hate your neighbor.
Yeah.
Fear your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like a Red Scare, but against Americans.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like now hate America. Hate your fellow American.
Yeah. So we've prefaced a little bit just about, I guess, the cultural context of what we're going to talk about. But I would like for you to quickly tell the viewers a recap of at least the primary talking points about Jacob Blake. And then I would like to sprinkle in a little extra information that people might not be aware of.
Yeah. Well, my understanding is that Jacob Blake was...
And before you continue, sorry, I do, if you wouldn't mind, making sure to kind of give what you might see on the headlines.
Well, I mean, it's like what's typically the running story is that Jacob Blake was apprehended, which is the cute little word that we're often fed about the cops. Yeah. I prefer the term jumped, but that's just my perspective.
Yeah.
Literally just my perspective. A guy who was not there.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you hear the same story enough from different people. But he was apprehended by the police. He ran away from them, reached into his... What they say is he reached into his glove compartment. Some other equally fishy stuff is that his hand went out of sight.
Yeah.
Which is literally apparently reason enough for a cop to blow your face off.
Yeah.
They claim that he was stating to them that he was going to get his gun.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense, right? And then when he entered his vehicle, he was shot, I believe, 7 times in the back.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was 7. So with that, I want to add a little bit of context, a little bit of backstory. And I do want everyone listening and watching to understand that every conversation needs to be a nuanced conversation.
Absolutely.
And although I am giving backstory or background information, don't assume my intent until we get to the end. Please don't. So, Jacob Blake, who was he? I'll give you a little bit of information about some of the things that he has done in his life that weren't so great. First, I'll say why were the cops called. So what you hear is when the cops arrived, Jacob Blake was breaking up a fight between, I think it was 2 women. Am I right on that?
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Okay. Now, who called the cops on him? because it wasn't on the fight that cops were called. At least I don't think so. So again, I'm going to let everyone know where I think my ignorance is. I will not claim complete confidence in knowing the entire story, but I do just want to say a little bit. So where was he? I guess I'll first say he was visiting, I think it was his ex-girlfriend. I don't think it was an ex-wife. Visiting an ex-girlfriend. Okay. Now, the person who called the cops on him was that ex-girlfriend. Okay? And why did she call the cops on him? And we'll put in the description the links of our sources. She called the cops on him because she already had a restraining order against him because he did sexually assault her. So obviously he shouldn't be there. I don't know what his business there was. It could have been, trying to be abusive, getting something. It could have been innocent, like I left my tie here. I don't know. Either way, there was a restraining order and she had every right to call. Yeah. Before I continue, I do want to say either her or I think it might have been her aunt. There were some conflicting stories, but someone in association with her, the sexual assault victim, said, y'all didn't have to do all that, like shooting him 7 times in the back. And that obviously is the truth. You did not, if you are supposed to be a trained professional, you should not have to resort to shooting someone 7 times in the back.
I think my perspective from that is just kind of like, I'm not trying to make this into like a masculine issue, but I do believe that cops that do that deserve to be emasculated and do deserve to be frankly insulted
now
and called out. But
let me also say with that, it was either New York Times or USA Today or one of the other sources that I'll provide in the description that said he was actually tased twice before he was shot.
That's what I heard.
Now, I can understand if you are trying to bring someone down who might harm you, if you've already tased them twice, I can understand the need for lethal force. I'm not going to agree that the person should have been shot 7 times in the spine. Especially since like the distance was like from me to you, maybe.
You could have shot him in the shoulder.
You could have grabbed him.
You could have immobilized him.
He was shot in the back 7 times at a distance that might have been what we are. You could have grabbed him. You're behind him. You're a professional police officer, are you not? Do you not have the ability to pull someone down, especially when there were 2 or more other officers on site?
All I've ever heard about cops is that they're professional tough guys.
Right, yeah. So why did you act like such a wuss?
Yeah, I'm sorry, man, but it's like, why did you act like some some housewife that was home alone and ended up shooting a burglar?
Right.
Like that's how you look. You realize that.
And there were reports saying that he brandished a knife. Now, those reports are a 2-word phrase I'm not going to use just out of spite. But yes, there were reports, I'm doing air quotes if you're just listening, that he was brandishing a knife before he went to his truck. Now, I can't quite recall if there was a knife literally on him. However, if there was or not, brandishing has an actual definition. Brandishing is like taking that thing out and waving it around and definitely threatening someone with it.
Exactly.
Having it on your hip or wherever he could have had it is not brandishing.
Not even close.
So
even having it out is not brandishing.
Right. Yeah, it's like waving that crap around, letting you know I definitely have a knife and I'll probably use it. And that wasn't the case. That was unfortunately that 2-word phrase that makes everyone cringe nowadays.
Yeah, because it's like brandishing. I mean, it's kind of like the principle behind police force. Like, I mean, police work in general is putting yourself on the line so that others can be protected.
Right.
I don't care how much you make. I don't care how much you make a year. I really don't. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, they don't make enough money and all this kind of stuff," and I'm just kind of like, "Well, you know what, dude? Cops have been underpaid since the 20s. Yeah. I mean, as far back as we can really look into what cops have been paid.
You doing a better job at servicing the public should not depend on your salary.
Yeah, it's like, so in other words, if you made $80,000 a year we'd be safer.
Yeah.
Is that what we've landed
It's
on?
like you
don't make enough money. Oh, boo-hoo.
Yeah, you could make a completely separate argument that police should be paid more if you think that, but that's a separate argument.
So does that mean the guy that like builds cars for a living, that means because he's underpaid, he doesn't have to put in your brake line?
Right, yeah. Imagine at the place that we worked, the pay wasn't great. If you've watched our first
episode. For us, it wasn't.
Yeah. If you watched our first episode, we talk about...
the low-level slugs that we are.
Yeah. We talk about the horribleness that goes on there and the lack of pay and the lack of, physical hygiene that you can have there. Yeah. But we still built cars that wouldn't blow up when you're on the road.
Exactly. We built cars that you could put your family in and be safe.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like what I was talking about, the whole emasculating, like the emasculation or whatever term I need to use, is that, cops are supposed to be professional, tough guys. Because, I'm old school. I think cops, I think Elliot Ness. I think, Joe Friday. I think tough, no-nonsense guys that love their community and want to see the bad guy behind bars.
Yeah. Not
blown away in an alley.
Yeah.
Not splattered all over his family's car.
Yeah.
In jail.
Yeah.
Now that right there. Now, granted, there is a huge conversation. Say the idea that the prison system is legalized slavery, which literally we could go into that for 3 hours.
Right.
Because a lot of it, I would actually agree. Because,
definitely.
I mean, it's like, and a lot of people wouldn't. And I'm just kind of like, well, you got to look into what the prison system does. But that's not the point. What I'm getting at is that cops are supposed to be the anti-gangster. They're supposed to be the anti-gangster. Yeah. Meaning they're supposed to be as tough, as brave, at times as crazy, meaning a proclivity towards risk-taking, as the gangster.
Yeah.
The white hat versus the black hat.
Yeah.
Which I know is obviously taking on a whole new meaning now.
Yeah.
But the thing is, cops are supposed to be tough.
Right.
How is it that every time I hear somebody blatantly defend a cop murdering another human being, a person that should have been arrested, tried, and sent to prison,
right,
or arrested, tried, and set free, he'll never have that. He'll never have that right because he's a corpse now.
Yeah.
He's gone.
So something that baffled me after this incident, immediately after this incident, or maybe a couple of days. Mm-hmm. So first off, thankfully, I no longer use Facebook. When I got my new phone, I did not install that on there. Okay, so it was, I guess, a couple of days after that, there was that little boy that was shot in his yard.
Oh, God, yeah.
Tragedy. And the story, and I'm going to say these details because that's how other people say them. The story is, it was this 4-year-old or, small white boy shot by a black man. I'm not going to get into that whole story. That's not the point at all of this. But all of the people online that I've seen on Facebook, and almost everyone I'm friends with on Facebook is very red. Yeah, I'm talking about all of you. They posted memes. So one, on Facebook, memes are facts.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, memes are facts.
Yeah.
For both sides.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. So they were posting memes, pictures with words on there, talking about essentially, I don't know verbatim because there were a lot of them, the point of why have there been no riots for, I forget the little boy's name and I apologize. Cameron? Cannon. Thank you, Travis. If you can't see him, Travis is our new technical guy.
He's our savior. He's our technological messiah.
Yes. People complaining that there were no riots for Cameron. It's like, but you get the whole point. That guy was caught the same day after he shot that boy, mm-hmm. and was put to jail and then went through the process. These riots, these protests, all of this is about the lack of an accountable system against police officers who, at least, if you look at least the data, are targeting black people. Yeah. That's what these riots are about. You can say all day that not every cop is bad, and yeah, I agree with that, but the data suggests that cops are biased against black people and other persons of color. Yeah. So that's what these riots are about.
Well, I mean, it really is. It's just kind of like if I got into a fist fight with an African-American guy in a gas station parking lot, and then the cops showed up, I know for a fact I have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's the African American guy, it's the black guy that has to be afraid.
Yeah.
Even though I may have been the one that started the fight.
Yeah.
You know, I could have been the prick, you know, one of those guys that's like, you looking at me, man? You know, whatever.
Yeah.
He has to be afraid now.
Yeah.
Because somebody started a fight with him, and all anyone saw was a black guy fighting a white guy. The cops show up, and then it's case closed.
Yeah. So there's a reason why all of these Karens online, if you think Karen is a slur, then just shut up.
Yeah, I literally resent you. I think you're a disgusting human being. If you actually try to I'm gonna say a phrase that may be whatever. You don't get to sit at the black kids table. You don't get to sit at the black kids table. You are a white woman living in America. Shut up when it comes to slurs.
Yeah.
You don't have a slur.
Yeah.
Because you don't get hunted in the streets by armed thugs with badges.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a reason why all these Karens online, when you see these videos, their first thing is to threaten to call the police because they know that. Now, one, it's stupid, but they also know that that is going to make a person of color be afraid because that person of color knows the situation.
It's a loaded gun in your back pocket.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Being able to call the cops as a white person against a black person, you might as well have an Uzi.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is. It's the ultimate threat.
Yeah. Before we continue, I want to pour some more scotch.
I was actually about to ask that, sir.
Thank you,
watch
Travis.
out. Yeah, we're watching labels over here.
So what is this fake brand that we have today?
I like to call it Infamous Snipe.
Infamous Snipe. Okay. Now I wish I still had some ice, but I don't.
Oh well. Straight.
I'll just have it neat.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah.
What? Dat Daniels. Which we're not drinking bourbon. We've got too much class.
That American stuff? No.
Oh yeah.
Get that out of here.
Ooh. Wait a minute. That was a siren.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if we'd want to take a pause and be like, hey,
that's fine.
Let's not include that.
It probably won't be picked up. But anyway, after we poured our glass so we can get more toasted, what I wanted to get at was the things that unfolded after the shooting against Jacob Blake.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say, so if everyone has watched our episode on workers' rights, we actually did touch on the riot in our hometown here in Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm not going to say where I was, but we witnessed events here that happened for several days here in Birmingham. And it took me a while to, and in that episode, even at that episode, which was maybe a couple weeks later, what month did it happen in? May?
I believe, yeah.
Sorry, I was just making... Okay.
I still look back on that and I'm kind of like, what month happened a minute ago?
Now, initially, and for a while, it took a while to process how I felt about the riots. So I'm just going to slightly explain my opinion on it. I disagree with destroying other people's property. However, I am, and I do believe by religious obligation, I need to look at the bigger picture. And that is that the riots, and it's probably only because of the riots that some change started to happen again. Now, of course, there were riots after MLK's death, and that actually initiated change. We haven't seen much change. We've seen some, at least, cultural shift. And I think it's primarily because of the riots. Not because people agreed with the riots, and that's why they're like, oh, I need to change my mind because I agree with the riots.
Because the talking point has almost completely swerved towards the riots.
Right. And I think it's the seeing how bad the situation is that it causes riots. It's like, oh, I really need to be introspective in the slightest and reevaluate my ethics and my morals.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I hate to disagree with you on that, but I do think a lot of it, I actually do. I don't say I believe in rioting like it's a philosophy, because I'm pretty sure nobody doing the rioting just woke up one day and said, you know what, I want to burn down a Starbucks. Like, nobody did that. A lot of people, and that's what you hear a lot.
I mean, when I worked there, I thought about that.
Oh, of course you did, But, because it's a corporation in they But
and I hated getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
Exactly. But the thing is, a lot of people that I know, they literally will say that it's like, it's just a bunch of people looking for an excuse to loot a store. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the problem. If you are, say, lazy and you just want to make money, just to be quicker, I think most of the people that would do that would sell dope.
Yeah.
Or they would get themselves involved in some kind of trafficking. Most of the people that would be willing to risk jail time, especially on camera, which is most of the time what happens. I don't think that's their excuse to loot a store.
It's not like these riots are safe environments for them to commit crime. These are extremely unsafe environments.
You're taking a gigantic risk.
By
rioting.
These places feel like, and I'll say I have a certain perspective, feel like an actual war zone.
It literally is. I mean, because it's like you have smoke, you have gunshots going off, you have screaming. There's a lot of confusion. I mean, you could literally, if you are perceived as being on the wrong side, you could show up to a protest and then start rioting and then get the living crap kicked out of you by people you showed up to the protest with.
Yeah.
Because they don't know you and they didn't recognize you.
Yeah.
So you're taking a huge, not only social, but physical risk.
Yeah.
By doing a riot. I do think that a lot of very ignorant people use the riot. This is where I disagree with you. It almost strengthens the argument that it's just a bunch of spoiled kids. Yeah. And
now, it is like weaponized, or it's like ammunition for people on the other side. Most definitely.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I was getting at. It's just kind of like, yes, it does swing the conversation towards extremes. Yeah. Which sometimes can be good. Not often, but sometimes. But a lot of the times on the right, because you have a lot of pundits that they know how to tweak a good phrase and make a situation look so damning and so bad. Yeah. And so that's not taken into consideration.
Oh yeah, it definitely has a bit of I would say, when it comes to the moderates who wouldn't know about their opinion, it could swing either way about the riots. Definitely. Yeah. The people on the right are already going to be against it. People on the left, on the extreme left, are going to be for it no matter what.
No matter what right or wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
But however, the people even kind of on the right that swinged against it, they're also upset that NFL players are protesting. It's like that, as though that's a massive they're protesting inconvenience. The people who are adamantly against riots and other stuff are just mad that there's an inconvenience and want to be mad. But with all of that said, there was, during one of the riots, after the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, we had an unfortunate event with a young white man in one of those riots, and I would like it if you could inform all of our viewers here a little bit about that. Not that everyone hasn't already heard about it, but
I forget his name. Kyle Rittenhouse. Basically a 17-year-old kid, which I'm gonna go down, if you don't mind. I'm gonna march down the list here.
Okay.
When talking about a 17-year-old kid from Earth.
Yeah.
Who is human.
Yeah.
Before we go into this, I don't know if anybody listening remembers what you were like at 17. Do you remember what you were like at 17? Yeah.
It was probably bad.
It was probably really bad.
Really stupid.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Why is a 17-year-old allowed to have an AR-15?
Like literally legally allowed to own a weapon of that kind.
Because here's the thing. Why would he be allowed to own a pistol? Because here's the thing. I remember thinking about my driving at 17. I shouldn't have been allowed behind the wheel of a car at
Where
17.
are the blinkers at?
Yeah, I'm just sitting there looking at this like I just wandered into, like, some kind of interstellar vehicle. And I'm just looking around going, I am literally going to kill a whole family. What do I do? You know, a 17-year-old should not be allowed to own a rifle that can fire as many bullets as you can pull the trigger. Especially one as accurate and as damage-inducing as an AR-15. Because I do want to go into this, I don't want to say uninterrupted, because you don't really interrupt ever. You're very cool and very awesome and much smarter than me. But I can say this. An Armalite 15 was not designed to be a military-grade weapon, which is something that I feel like the left tried to make. For a long time, the left tried to make the AR-15 sound like a machine gun.
Yeah.
Which is...
It's semi-automatic.
Which is one of the many reasons they lost the last election.
One of many. I'll say that's low on the
one
list.
One of many, but it's
I
up
mean,
there.
It's something the right use as a fear tactic.
Because the fear mongering needs to stop.
Yeah.
But the Armalite 15 is a weapon that fires a 5.56 full metal jacket, pretty much. A bullet that is a 5.56 millimeter round. Very effective. Very, very accurate. A 17-year-old should not be able to have access to that.
Why would a 17-year-old have access to any kind of high velocity projectile in the first place?
That is a high velocity. I don't know if you saw I saw some lovely memes that the right-wingers on my Facebook put together involving the wounds of the people that Kyle Rittenhouse shot. Which to me, my question is this: did Daddy not hug you enough when you were a kid? Were you touched or something? I don't. What is your deal?
Ooh, that might have been a little too far. But.
I'm sorry, but I mean, it's like if you are literally willing to sit in front of your computer and make fun of somebody being shot because of all of this turmoil, because if we weren't in this situation, that guy probably wouldn't have been shot.
Yeah,
probably not.
Guess what? If cops were held accountable, these riots wouldn't be happening.
Exactly. If cops were held accountable, this wouldn't be. We'd be fine.
Hard pills to swallow, I know.
Yeah, I know. Turns out an entire cross section of people didn't just wake up one day and decide they want to break windows. But yeah, the 5.56 round is vicious. It is vicious. The preferred round of the United States military. Though the rifle itself is not designed as a military-grade weapon.
Yeah.
Because it has no full auto capability.
Right.
But still a very nasty little rifle. I've fired one several times. It is brutal. You have Kyle Rittenhouse crossing state lines with a very formidable rifle. And he gets attacked, which is true.
Yeah.
That is not, propaganda. That is true.
Yeah, that is true.
He got attacked by 3 protesters, Antifa guys.
Yeah.
And he fired a volley, meaning several rounds into them.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to like that particular point that yes, he was attacked. I don't know if he provoked anyone, but
that is the sociological question. Did he ask for it?
Yeah, and then like even if it then starts to become like where's the arguing point, because you can't necessarily easily, at least with confidence, blame the victim if he was the person who was just attacked without him doing anything to provoke an attack. So that becomes hard to talk about.
Well, and also there's a lot of theories that one of the guys pulled a gun on him. Apparently there are pictures of a gun being brandished. There's also pictures of him, apparently somebody trying to hit him with a skateboard. It's all kinds of different
I remember
stuff.
that part, yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I want you to listen close. This is an AR-15 being brandished by a 17-year-old boy. I literally cannot believe that someone would approach him with hostile intent while he has an AR-15 slung around his neck.
So what's interesting to me is, like, when this broke, and especially when I heard, I'll just say Fox News saying it was perfectly within his legal rights to own that weapon. Mm-hmm. That was actually baffling to me, because here in Alabama, like, a minor can have like a hunting license, but they have to
Which is fine.
But they have
That's
to
fine.
be and like own a gun, I guess. But they have to be literally within arm's reach of their guardian.
Exactly.
And I thought that's how it was across the country.
No.
And so that was blown away at the thought, as a 17-year-old boy.
Did you go down the rabbit hole of gun laws in this country from when you did that? Did you look into everything? It is insane.
I did not.
Dude, you can literally own... We won't go into that. It's because I would have to go off for an hour on that, and I'm incapable of not doing that. So we'll save that for another time. But I'm going to throw this out here, and I think I can speak for both of us. We're not anti-gun, bro.
No.
And honestly,
I don't own a gun, and I don't want to own a gun, but I'm not.
I'm a shotgun guy. I'm a big shotgun fan. I like a good, like when it comes to the idea of home protection. Actually, I heard a wonderful, one of my favorite comedians of all time, very popular comedian. I won't mention his name. But I will say this. He said that he bought a shotgun when he was living in Ohio. I think when I tell the story, I think most people are going to know who I'm talking about here. He was told to put birdshot as the first shell, and then buckshot. And then after that, he said, the shotgun is now Jamaican. Buckshot, buckshot, buckshot. Which I thought was freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of like a shotgun is a perfect home defense weapon because, first of all, it's the most, in my opinion, it's the most intimidating firearm you can have pointed at you.
Yeah.
Because you can't miss.
Yeah.
And it's the loudest. Mm-hmm. It's the most, in my opinion, the most damage causing. I mean, because if you get buckshot poured into you, you're not walking away.
Yeah. But you also don't like throw that around your back to go to McDonald's or Starbucks.
Exactly. I don't keep that slung up in the rear view of my truck.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sitting there. Like, here's the thing. If you are constantly having to remind people that you own a firearm,
you got a tiny penis.
You need Viagra.
Okay, I'm glad we're on the same track there.
Like you literally need to practice when it comes to giving orgasms. If you are constantly reminding people that you own a firearm, you literally need to practice more oral sex.
Now, right. But I'm going to stop it right there with saying, how is it that even though in his state he was allowed to own a weapon, how is he legally allowed to bring it across to another state? Did that state have different laws? I think,
I imagine so.
Hold on.
They would have to.
I want to ask our guy Travis here, who knows a lot about guns.
He's not. He was completely in the wrong by doing that. He broke law.
Okay, so
see, that's what I was thinking. Is he crossed a state line? With a firearm.
Okay, so what? In case you couldn't hear,
which I don't even know. And granted, I don't know about that part of it.
Right. In case you can't hear it, because I don't know if our mics picked him up, but Travis knows a lot about guns. Family has been in the gun business for a while. Apparently, it's not legal. I will not say with 100% confidence, because I don't have the source right in front of me, of course, but should not have been allowed that he brought it over there anyway. And also, I want to bring up another point of when he was walking towards the cops and he had this big gun strapped around him, and the cops were just like, yeah, whatever, cool.
Didn't one of them thank him?
What was that?
I think that's on. I think somebody captured that. There is footage of the cops thanking him.
I do also want to say that when I was or was not in the presence of an illegal protest here in my home city. When I was leaving that location and crossing a wall of cops, I may or may not have just been overlooked as I walked past and not a thing said to me.
Of course.
Now,
Of
I don't know if that was just because now the Birmingham Police Department is a little bit better than what you hear about most. It may have been just if anyone is leaving, they were fine. It could have been if anyone were leaving, it was fine. Or it could have been the color of my skin.
Yeah, I mean...
It makes me wonder. I don't know for certain, and I don't want to call a Birmingham Police Department out because I really don't know. But...
Yeah, of course. I mean,
it definitely seems like at least a little bit of privilege.
But here's the thing. It is. It really is, because the thing is, you still have to talk about the long-running roots of racism here. Mm-hmm. Not just with cops, and that's the thing. I'm not anti-cop. Yeah. And I'm not afraid to say that on the air. I'm not anti-cop. But here's the thing. Until some stuff changes, I have to be. Yeah. And that's just where I'm at with it. I know some cops. I mean, I've been frisked plenty of times. Yeah. Because I was a dumb, angry, irreverent little punk rock kid who had his middle finger super glued into the air. I would go to punk shows all the time and go to metal shows all the time. I've been searched by cops. Yeah. Especially at some of the house shows that I used to go to in Heflin. Yeah. Cops got called. Yeah. Because it's in a neighborhood. Yeah. We were a loud, drunken mess of a group of people. But granted, I've met plenty of cops and I know plenty of cops that are great guys. Sure. Yeah. Sure. But the biggest problem is that people think that because they've met some cops that are congenial, that are easy to talk to. What is it that every time you interview the neighbor of a serial killer that was just arrested, right, what do they always say? Right. He was such a nice guy. Yeah. He was so nice. Yeah. Everybody, it's just kind of like, everybody said about Jeffrey Dahmer, it was real quiet.
So isn't the thing the right is saying is that, yeah, there's a few bad apples, but what's the rest of that saying? A few bad apples spoils
the whole bunch. Yeah. And the problem with that is that you have these good cops who do nothing about the bad cops. Right. Oh, well, nobody hates a crooked cop more than a good cop. Yeah. I see no evidence of that. Yeah, and that's at all.
Something Joe Biden said recently, which just made me howl in laughter.
It's easy to howl at him.
It is.
He is a full moon in coyote country, isn't he?
Yeah, at both the people we currently have, it's easy to howl at. So it makes me recall, not verbatim, but a particular idea, because I'm a literature snob, something from Dante's Inferno. That
I'm a fan. Don't worry.
That talks about a certain type of people that are in one of the circles of hell that are there because they didn't do anything when faced with injustice, so are just as guilty.
And I agree. 100%.
Now, I mean, I'm not a Catholic, of course, by any means, wrong kind of person, but that's sound philosophy to me.
Well, here's my problem with the thin blue line. You have the thin blue line, right? These brave men and women they're the only thing standing between us and total anarchy. Well, you have a cop that is nightsticking a person to death. Yeah. Or putting his knee on the back of their throat, on the back of their neck, or murdering a human being with a firearm. Well, here's the time for the other cop to step outside of the thin blue line, turn around to the thin blue line, and say, put your hands on your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are cops not arresting cops?
Exactly. If you saw some more of that, I bet there'd be less protests and riots.
Yeah, exactly. Because let me tell you something. I'm not one of these, I believe in dead cops people. I'm not that guy, because I don't think anybody should just be murdered. Right. But why are there not more crooked cops going to the gas chamber?
Okay, so real quick, in the presence of me, a Jew, saying someone should go to a gas chamber.
Oh, you are just precious.
Might be.
You crafty. Oh, you
might not be the best allegory that you think.
I might have to whip a bottle at you. I might have to do it. By the way, I love you for bringing that up. Why are there not more cops, more crooked cops, being sent to the chair?
Fair enough.
There you go.
I mean, I think they should just, be thrown in jail. I'm not fond of the death
I'm not
penalty.
either, but those are the laws we have now.
Right.
And the thing is,
and essentially they are murderers. So what do you, in most states, do with murderers?
I mean, give me a break. I mean, they send them to the chair. I mean, they send them to the needle. And the thing is, that is the biggest. That's the question. I feel like that's the question because that resonates with me all the time. Because when I think of cops, I think about the John Law. I think about the guy who literally just has a whole spectrum when it comes to this is right, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like he sees in 360. Why is he not looking behind him? Why is he not looking at the cop the cop next to him going, that was illegal. Put your hands behind, place your fingers behind your head.
Yeah. And
it's like this, people try to act like the blue code of silence doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Definitely.
They protect each other like gang members.
And not just, individual cops protecting individual cops, but the police unions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am fond of unions, but not the police.
But like
union.
I said in the last or our first episode, that literally sounds like a science fiction novel.
Yeah.
That sounds like a venture into because people think that we're living in a police state now. No, we're not.
No.
We are not living in a police state. But that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
Because if cops can get away with whatever they want, unfettered, we're heading towards a police state.
I've never been against breaking up unions. But
Whoa there, bucko. Sounds like you misspoke. You meant to say you were against breaking up unions.
But God, it needs to
happen.
That
is a union that needs to go. Yeah. Because what they're doing is not a profession. And it's a necessity.
The main arguments that people say why we need a police union is like so they can get a competitive salary, health insurance. Like we should have those for everyone anyway.
Yeah, I was like, okay, then explain to me this: why is it that there are people out there that do a job that is demeaning and awful and physically challenging that can barely get health insurance?
Exactly. Yeah.
Just an idea.
So the thought that unions should exist for those two reasons is ridiculous because those two things are a human right. So like being paid enough and having health care, those are human rights. I'm sorry if that's a little too leftist for anyone listening, but that's just the facts.
Well,
strong opinion. I guess I can't say it's a fact.
Not at all. You're good. I can tell you this. That's too leftist of an opinion. That phrase, or that's too right-wing of an opinion. Or I remember this really stupid person that I used to hang with back in the day said to me, that's such a George Bush thing to say.
What did you say?
I don't remember. Okay. I think actually I was talking about the fact that the white people in the working class who feel underrepresented, mostly in the South, because the South basically somehow managed to buy itself the right to bust unions.
Yeah.
White people in the working class in the South, they feel underrepresented, which is where they conjure up all these lunatic ideas.
And in the Midwest.
And in the Midwest, definitely. Well, I mean, the all over the country. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
insecure white people.
Insecure white people. But at the same time, white people that are working class that aren't given the workers' rights that they deserve.
Right.
But it's not because, but they have then been convinced it's because they're white.
Exactly.
It's nut jobs,
Yeah.
But the thing is, is this really stupid person I hang out with that may be a little too left wing for her own good. Said that's such a George Bush thing to say, and I'm just kind of like, George Bush smiled with his forehead. I'm like, let me give you a George Bush quote. In America, wings take dream.
No, that's not real, right?
That is real.
Holy crap.
That is a real
That's
quote.
Awesome. You know what? I approve of him now. Just because
he was just here's the thing, it's like he was just harmless enough to be amusing. And then that whole Iraq war thing had to happen.
Yeah.
That sucked. God, what a terrible day that was.
So, okay, before I think we're gonna keep going down some rabbit holes. I do think
rabbit holes.
Yes.
Because they're fluffy.
True.
Was that a sexual comment? Who knows?
I do think maybe, at least on this topic, we should wrap up this episode with maybe some closing statements.
Sure.
I'd like to go first. So, as we started saying, sorry, I'm a little drunk, so my words are slow. This was a nuanced conversation.
Yes.
We are not in any way anti-Black Lives Matter. We are pro Black Lives Matter.
We are, well, not just pro. Well, I mean, it's easy to be pro.
It's
We're
easy to be
supporters.
Right, yeah. It's because it's just a fact.
Hey, you march, we march.
Right.
It's that simple, bro.
And we have.
Absolutely,
here in our city.
Mm-hmm.
And we did want to bring some points about Jacob Blake to light. And I do know that people on the opposite side of us often want to do the same thing for any victim of the police or any kind of racial crime that happens. And usually it is a bunch of crap that they bring to the table. Or it's stuff that's not a big deal, like, I don't know, was arrested for selling pot, or...
I mean, they bring highbrow humor
right.
to it. It's just kind of like, well, like they have this very smarmy kind of sarcasm about a person being killed.
And I do want to say our intent of bringing these things about Jacob Blake to light was not to diminish the fact that he was acted upon by the police in a certain way that was unjust and racially charged. That is the truth. He was acted upon unjustly and it was racially charged.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, Jacob Blake is not the greatest martyr that has been put forth.
That is one of the, and I will, I can make this my closing statement, but it's going to be a little long-winded.
Before you go, I want more scotch.
Oh. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna have to order this pizza soon. Because
absolutely. That pizza's sounding better and better.
I'm about to fall over my chair.
But I can tell you this. Just because someone gets shot by the cops, that does not mean we need to meme them for 2 months. Sometimes you don't realize that you are feeding the right-wingers ammunition.
Right. Because
you bring up the Jacob Blake thing, and what you're bringing up is a rapist, which is still considered, I mean, at least to me also, something that is kind of like, it's hard for me to have pity for somebody that could rape another human being.
Right.
Racially driven or not, you're still a rapist, dude.
Right.
And
I try to separate the two concepts of what was
absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to, but here's the thing: Fox News doesn't.
Right.
So you're feeding Fox News, a very, very watched network.
Right. It's the most popular one out of all of them.
All of them. You're feeding them ammunition to where it's kind of like these crazy left-wingers are weeping and moaning over a rapist being shot.
Right.
And that's all they're going to run. How about don't do that anymore? Stop feeding them ammunition. Pick your battles.
And if now it is fair to want to make the argument that, he was killed racially. Because
absolutely.
That is definitely the truth.
But bring that up paired with something that doesn't involve a rapist.
Right. And now even if you want to with Jacob Blake, you have to make sure you start the conversation letting your opponent, if you're going to see it that way, letting your opponent know it's a nuanced conversation.
It is a nuanced conversation.
You have to make sure that...
But most people don't.
Exactly, because we are extremely polarized right now.
We're so polarized. And that's the issue, is that... you know what? I'm going to say this, and obviously I am nobody's Einstein. I'm not going to be anybody's guru anytime soon, but I do feel like it is a lack of intellect. It is a lack of people going out of their way because they're too busy taking bong rips and posting memes. It is a lack of people not going out and doing the hard research and also learning how to debate.
Yeah.
Learning how to discuss.
Exactly.
And it's literally start this out. I know this guy was a rapist. I know this guy did this. I know this guy belongs in prison. Sure. Where do the cops belong?
Exactly.
What should they be doing? Are they the judge, jury, and executioner? No, they are not. They are civil servants.
Exactly.
And should not be blowing people away just because of a social idea.
Yeah.
How this person is perceived. That does not mean you get to shoot him.
Yeah.
You're not going to get off scot-free. You're not going to be able to say, well, he was a rapist, good riddance. We need to live in a society that is accountable, and a society that is going to say, I don't care what that guy did, you don't get to whack people in the street.
Yeah.
You don't. And that is my closing statement.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching and listening. Yep. I have English proper.
Yeah. It's pizza time.
Yeah. Thank you for watching and listening this far in. We hope that you enjoyed our, I'll say it again, nuanced conversation. And make sure you like and subscribe. Yeah. I am Joshua.
And I am Joey.
And this is Drunken Discourse.
What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor early in the morning?